Alright, I think this venue is probably going to work okay for recording video, as I'm not online at the moment because there's no Wi-Fi in here, but the lighting's alright. It's a bit dark, it's a bit red, but it'll be fine. It's quiet enough that I can think about things and talk off the cuff without worrying about it too much. So, Sunday morning, let me describe what Emotional Freedom Radio is, for the people who don't know me and don't know the way I think. There you go. We've got some pink flight in the background as well, so that's a good sign. That's a very good sign as far as I'm concerned. Wish you were here. There you go. Perfect. Could that be any more perfect, you think? From my mindset and my way of looking at the world, Pink Floyd's a key part of it. Anyway, I'm going to talk over the top of it, but it's there. So, emotional freedom is freedom to express, freedom to release, freedom to let go of, freedom to be without, freedom from emotion, as well as freedom to express it. So, emotional freedom could be a way to move through negative emotions into positive emotions, into joy and bliss from apathy, fear, anger, lust, all those sorts of things. The seven deadly sins, essentially, but they're also in the Hindu system as well. And it could be a way of moving through all of those negatives into a neutral place, and then into a positive place, and then slowly into more and more joy, more and more fun, more and more bliss, until it's a sustainable thing that just happens because it's just the way you are. If you become joy, then how can you not have joy all of the time? You might dip into grief, or dip into anger, or dip into fear of loss, or dip into fear of something else, or whatever it is. Every now and again you might do that, and that's fine. That's part of being human. We're not always going to be able to sustain the highest level of joy and bliss, but if the majority of the time is joyful and happy and peaceful and has a sense of equanimity about it, then that's a pretty good place to be, I think. And that's the place that I'm aiming to be. So the radio show is a collection of audios that I've found helpful to get me to that place. Part of it's Sedona method, part of it is emotional freedom technique. I do a lot of Reiki work, Reiki self-healing. I've been doing that for many, many years, and I'm going to continue to do that. That's a key part of what I do. But it was the letting go piece that got me to peace and joy and to bliss for a period of time. So the letting go piece has to be there as well. So and here's how that differs with Reiki. With Reiki, you're letting go of stuck energy and putting in more positive, more universal energy. And it's usually at the level of the throat, heart, third eye and crown chakra. That's the place that Reiki does its thing. Further down into the base, sacral, solar plexus, that's more ego based. So that's more the human negative emotions, the anger, the grief, the apathy, the depression, the fear, are all in the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root chakra, the base chakra. So Reiki gets to those places, but to get to the depth of the place, the physical place that holds those things, you're holding fear in your muscles, you're holding anger, you're holding all that tension from experiences, from trauma or whatever, in your muscles. So it's a physical thing. It's in your nervous system. Trauma's in your nervous system and in your muscles, and in your hormonal system, in your endocrine system. It's also in your immune system. There's a record of any virus, any bacteria that you've been fighting in your immune system. So all of this works as an integrated system. So Reiki works on the immune system, it works on the hormonal system, it works to some extent on the muscle system, but Sedona method works better for releasing from your muscles. So the more physical you get, the more specific about what you're releasing, the more effective it'll be. And what I've found is Sedona method works better for me when I'm releasing deep trauma. Reiki's got me through for the last 20 years. It's a maintenance technique. But to get underneath, to get to the deep trauma, I found that Sedona method works better for me. So I've put Sedona method content onto the radio station. I put emotional freedom technique content onto the station. And what I'm doing is building up a record of the things that have worked for me, the things that I like, the way that they're presented, if I like the content. And what I've done is built up a library of content that reinforces the letting go piece and reinforces the philosophical piece that needs to be there to allow that to happen. So that's the aim of the radio station, is to coach people through that from wherever they are. So if you're dealing with ego-based trauma or anxiety or whatever, emotional freedom technique will take you through that and help you to release some of it. Sedona method will help you to release some of it. The work of Byron Katie might work for you. I found that quite helpful along the way as well. So I've got the work of Byron Katie on here. Just a couple of hours a day of content. If you find it and it works for you, keep coming back. Keep coming back and listening to it over and over again. Find the thing that works for you, and then the other stuff will reinforce it, because I've picked things that reinforce each other. They don't contradict. If you're listening to things that contradict what you're trying to do, you're putting resistance in. What we're trying to do is take resistance out. And that's the key part of the process. We're taking the resistance out. So that's it. That's the aim. That's the philosophical aim of the radio station. And on a Sunday, I'm going to be reinforcing that with not quite live at the moment, but recorded on Saturday material. To reinforce what's on there, I'm adding material all the time. I've added a little bit of political material recently because I've been watching political commentaries on Donald Trump impeachment and on Brexit. But it won't be that. There won't be very much political content on here. I'm just adding the things that I'm watching ultimately. I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I find it interesting. I find the process of the impeachment, in fact the whole Trump presidency, has been about shadow integration for me. That's how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm interpreting it. Brexit is about releasing trauma. It's releasing the trauma of the First and Second World Wars for the UK, and for the relationship between Britain and Europe. It might go back as far as the Napoleonic Wars. It could very easily go back as far as the Napoleonic Wars, but I see the whole thing as trauma release. So it's a process that has to happen. Hopefully we'll come to the end of it in 2 or 3 years' time when we've renegotiated everything. But if you look at the politics as an expanded country version of a personal healing process, then it starts to make sense. You're talking about a psychology of a country rather than the psychology of an individual. But the process is the same. The process is the same, in my view. and it makes it interesting. It means that I can look around and see the psychological process of Britain, of England, of the United Kingdom, of Northern Ireland, of the Republic of Ireland. I can see the healing process in the relationship between France and Germany, the relationship between Scandinavian countries and the rest of Europe. All of those things have got included in them some trauma from the First and Second World Wars and from the Napoleonic Wars, and potentially from the Crimean War as well. There's the Ukraine situation. The Russia-Ukraine relationship is the relationship that comes from the Crimean War. So all of these, it's all war trauma. It's all war trauma. All of the politics. So it's interesting. I'm going to start looking a bit more into it and structuring some content around that as well, I think. But for the time being, I'm just adding some videos from MSNBC and CNN and David Icke occasionally, just as I build up my ideas and my content. I'll start doing a bit more myself. And that's it for now.